The Shadow Blade unit managed to reach their ship, but the retreat felt more like a defeat than a strategic withdrawal. They had successfully escaped from the human research facility, but none of them felt like they had won anything the humans had let them go, and that was somehow more frightening than being captured. HFY sat in the pilot seat staring at the communication panel. Dr. Cho Minho had responded to his question about employment with a message that changed everything. The human scientist was not just interested in hiring them, he had already prepared detailed job offers for each team member. The humans wanted to recruit the Shadow Blade unit as consultants for their military development program. They offered triple the usual assassination fees, plus full medical benefits and the chance to help train the next generation of human warriors. The job description made it sound like the humans were building an army, but the most disturbing part of the offer was that it came with performance reviews. The humans had evaluated each assassin during their failed mission and provided detailed feedback about their strengths and weaknesses. The enemy had graded them like students taking a test. Jimin read his evaluation. With growing horror, the humans had analyzed his shooting technique and found 12 ways he could improve his accuracy. They suggested different ammunition types that would work better against various alien armor systems. They even recommended breathing exercises to help him stay calm under pressure. Sasajin had included a personal note thanking Jimin for teaching her about long-distance shooting. She explained that human snipers had never had the chance to learn from alien experts, and his techniques had helped her understand galactic warfare better. The enemy sniper was grateful for the enemy sniper. Osra discovered that her combat assessment was longer than most military training manuals the humans had documented every move she made during their brief fight and explained how each technique could be improved. Gangmin had written detailed suggestions about her fighting stance and weapon handling. The human martial artist had left video demonstrations showing better ways to use her own weapons. He pointed out that her alien fighting style was excellent but could be enhanced by incorporating human flexibility training. The enemy was trying to make her a better killer. Tusung found that his depth review included blueprints for explosive devices that did not exist in any galactic database. The humans had taken his alien technology and improved it using methods he did not understand. The primitives had out-engineered someone with decades of experience. Kim Hejin had written a technical paper explaining how human metallurgy could make alien explosives more effective. The research included chemical formulas that would increase blast radius while reducing collateral damage. The humans were teaching him his own job. Nuri stared at her computer evaluation in disbelief. The humans had not just defeated her hacking attempts, they had documented every method she used and showed her more efficient ways to accomplish the same goals. The enemy had given her a programming course. Yoon Sayoko had included sample code that demonstrated advanced techniques Nari had never seen before. The human computer expert was sharing knowledge that could make her one of the best hackers in the galaxy. The enemy was making her more dangerous, but the humans were not finished with them yet. As the Shadow Blade unit prepared to leave the planet, they discovered that their ship had been quietly upgraded while they were fighting the navigation. The system was running more efficiently, the weapons were more accurate, and the shields were stronger. The humans had improved their starship without permission, and they had done it as a gift. The research team had left detailed technical manuals explaining all the modifications along with suggestions for further improvements. The enemy had made them more effective at their job. Cho Minho sent a final message as they departed from Kepler 442b. He thanked the assassins for the educational opportunity and provided them with complete reports on their own performance. The human scientists treated the entire encounter like a successful research project. The message included an analysis of galactic military tactics based on observations of the Shadow Blade unit in action. The humans had learned more about alien warfare in one day than most species learned in decades of study. The primitives had become experts overnight, but the most unsettling part of the message was the personal comments about each team member. Dr. Cho had evaluated their psychological profiles and offered suggestions for improving their mental health. The enemy was concerned about their emotional well-being. Human scientists recommended meditation techniques for G. To help with his performance anxiety, he suggested that Sora might benefit from team-building exercises to improve her social skills. He provided stress management resources for Taesoon and recommended computer programming courses for Nara. Humans were not just trying to hire them as consultants, they were trying to help them become better people. The enemy wanted to improve their lives in addition to their professional skills. Daeho realized that his team was dealing with something completely unprecedented in galactic history. The humans had turned a military engagement into a recruitment opportunity. They had treated a life-or-death battle like a job interview. The Shadow Blade unit had encountered dozens of alien species. During their careers, some were stronger, some were faster, some had better technology. But humans were the first species that tried to help their enemies become more effective at killing them. 3 days into their journey back to civilization, the team received another message from Dr. Cho. The human research facility had been promoted to head Earth New Galactic Relations Division. Their first project was a cultural exchange program where alien military specialists could share knowledge with human experts. The message included technical specifications for new weapons that combined human innovation with alien technology. The designs were better than anything in the galactic military database. The humans had created superior weapons by studying their enemies for just a few hours. There were also tactical manuals that improved on both human and alien strategies. The documents showed how different species could work together more effectively. The humans had figured out how to make everyone better at warfare. Each member of the research team had written personal notes to their corresponding Shadowblade opponent. Su Jin thanked Jimin for teaching her about alien sniping techniques. Gangmin expressed gratitude to Sora for showing him new fighting styles. Da Kim sent appreciation to Taesong for demonstrating advanced demolitions methods. Dr. Yoon thanked Nari for helping him understand alien computer systems. The humans were grateful to the people who had tried to kill them. The final part of the message was an updated job offer. The humans had increased their salary offers and added benefits that included advanced training programs. The research team wanted to learn more from the assassins, and they were willing to pay premium rates for the education. Commander Daeho looked at his team and saw something he had never seen before in elite killers. They were curious. The humans had sparked their interest in ways that no previous opponent had ever managed. The enemy had made them want to learn. Jimin was studying human sniping videos and taking notes about techniques he had never considered. Sora was practicing fighting moves that Gangmin had demonstrated. Taesong was redesigning his explosives using human engineering principles. Nari was learning programming languages that the humans had invented. The Shadowblade unit was becoming better at their jobs because of the people they had failed to kill. The humans had turned their enemies into students, and the assassins were eager to continue their education. For the first time in 15 years, Daeho seriously considered changing careers. The humans offered something that no other employer had ever provided: the chance to keep getting better at what he did. The galaxy most feared assassins were being recruited by their own targets, and they were actually thinking about accepting the offer. Commander Kong Daeho walked into the briefing room with heavy steps. His boots made loud sounds on the metal floor. The room was dark, except for one bright light in the center. 4 chairs sat around a table, and 3 of them were already filled. His team was waiting for him. Park Jimin sat cleaning his sniper rifle like he always did before a mission. The weapon was longer than most people, were tall, and could punch holes through starship armor. Jimin had never missed a target in 8 years of service. His cold eyes looked up when Daeho entered, but he kept working on his gun. Sora was doing stretches in her chair. Her body moved like water even when she was sitting still. She wore her usual black combat suit that fit her like a second skin. 2 curved blades hung from her belt, and everyone knew she could kill someone with just her bare hands. Sora had won every fight she had ever been in. Kim Taesing was playing with small metal objects on the table. They looked like toys, but Daeho knew they were bombs. Each one could blow up a building. Taesing loved explosions more than most people loved food. He was always smiling and making jokes, but his bombs never failed to do their job. The 4th member of the team was running late. Yunarai was probably hacking into some computer system somewhere. She could make any machine do whatever she wanted. Her fingers moved faster on keyboards than most people could think. Nari could walk through laser walls and pass guard robots like she was invisible. Daeho sat down in his chair and looked at his team. They were called the Shadowblade Unit, and they were the best killers in the galaxy. Every government feared them. Every criminal organization wanted to hire them. They had destroyed armies and toppled kingdoms across 12 different star systems. A hologram appeared above the table showing the face of General Vex. The alien had green skin and 4 eyes that never seemed to blink. His voice was deep and scary when he spoke to them. The general told them about their new mission. There was a small research station on a planet called Kepler 44. To be the humans who lived there had built some kind of new weapon. The Galactic Council was worried about what the humans might do with this weapon. Daeho almost laughed when he heard the word humans. He had read about them in the intelligence files. They were a new species that had just learned how to travel between stars. Most of them still lived on their home planet called Earth. They had weak bodies and short lives compared to other aliens. The general continued talking. The human research station only had 23 people inside. Most of them were scientists who spent their time looking at data and writing reports. There were also 5 security guards, but they only had basic laser weapons. The whole place was protected by simple energy shields that any decent military unit could break through. Jimin looked up from his rifle and asked how much they were being paid. The general named a number that made even Sora stop stretching. It was enough money to buy a small moon. The job seemed too easy for such a high payment, but none of them complained about easy money. Picked up one of his small bombs and rolled it between his fingers. He asked if he could use the big explosives for this job. The general said yes, and Taesoon smiled like a child who had been given candy. Sora wanted to know if there were any special rules about killing the humans. The general said to kill them all and make sure none of them escaped. The research had to be stopped and all the scientists had to. Dinari finally arrived at the briefing room. Her hair was messy and she had oil stains on her fingers. She had been working on their ship and upgrading the computer systems. She sat down and asked what she had missed. The general repeated the mission details for Nari. Then he showed them pictures of the research station. It looked like a simple building with white walls and a few small towers. The whole place could probably fit inside their ship. Intelligence reports said the humans had discovered something about energy manipulation. They were trying to build weapons that could affect the fabric of space itself. The Galactic Council was worried that humans might use these weapons to attack other species. Ho studied the pictures of the human facility. Everything looked normal and boring. The building had regular doors and windows. There were no heavy weapons visible anywhere. The landing pad only had two small ships that looked like they could barely fly between planets. The security systems were listed in the intelligence report: standard laser turrets that moved slowly, energy barriers that had been cracked by teenage hackers, motion sensors that could be fooled by anyone with basic training. The whole defense setup was at least 50 years behind current galactic standards. Jimin asked about the humans themselves. The intelligence files said they were physically weak compared to most alien species. They could not see in the dark as well as other races. They could not run very fast or lift heavy things. Their reaction times were slow and their senses were limited. Sara wondered why the Galactic Council was worried about such weak creatures. The general explained that humans had surprised everyone by developing space travel faster than expected. They seemed to learn new things very quickly, and they worked together in ways that other species did not understand. Esong was looking at the building plans. He pointed out that the walls were made of simple metal and concrete. His smallest bombs could knock down the whole structure. The humans had not even bothered to use proper military-grade material. Esneri studied the computer network information. The humans were using basic quantum encryption that she could break in her sleep. Their security programs were simple and had obvious weak spots. She could probably take control of their entire system before the team even landed on the planet. The mission timeline was simple. They would travel to Kepler for 4 to be in their stealth ship. They would observe the facility for a few hours to make sure the intelligence was correct. Then they would attack and kill everyone inside. Finally, they would destroy all the research data and blow up the building. Deo looked at his team and felt something strange. He had been doing this job for 15 years and had learned to trust his instincts. Something about this mission felt wrong, but he could not figure out what it was. The payment was too high for such an easy job. The intelligence seemed too detailed and too convenient. The humans were supposed to be primitive, but they had somehow worried the entire Galactic Council enough to send the Shadowblade unit. But orders were orders and the money was real. Deho accepted the mission and told his team to prepare their equipment. They would leave in 6 hours and arrive at the human facility in 3 days. As the briefing ended, each team member went to get ready. Jemin took his rifle to the weapons bay to add special ammunition. Sora went to practice her fighting moves in the training room. Tasing headed to the armory to pick out his favorite explosives. Nari walked to the computer center to study more files about human technology. Deho stayed in the briefing room staring at the pictures of the research. For Silly, something was bothering him about the whole situation, but he could not put his finger on what it was. The human building looked too quiet and too normal for a place that was developing dangerous weapons. The security was too weak for people who knew they might be attacked. The whole setup seemed almost like someone wanted it to be easy to find and easy to attack, but Deho pushed these thoughts away. His team had killed Void Lords and Cyberhive Queens. They had destroyed entire space stations and eliminated governments. They were the best killers in the galaxy, and 23 human scientists would not be a problem. He walked to his quarters to check his own weapons and armor. In a few hours, they would be traveling through space toward what should be the easiest mission of their careers. Deho did not know that he was about to meet the most dangerous opponents he had ever faced, and he definitely did not know that the humans were already waiting for them. 3 days later, the Shadowblade unit arrived at Kepler 4 for to be in their stealth ship. The planet looked peaceful from orbit with blue oceans and green continents that reminded Deho of vacation worlds. The human research facility appeared as a tiny white dot on the surface surrounded by empty grasslands. Nari ran deep scans of the facility from their ship. Her computers showed exactly what the intelligence reports had promised: 23 life signs inside the building. 5 of them were moving around like security guards. The other 18 were sitting still like scientists working at desks. The building itself looked even more simple than the pictures had shown. It was just a basic rectangular structure with a flat roof and regular windows. There were no defensive towers or weapon emplacements visible anywhere. The landing pad had the same 2 small ships that looked like they had not moved in weeks. Jimin set up his sniper rifle at the observation window and looked through the scope. The facility was so poorly hidden that he could see people walking around inside through the windows. The security guards were wearing simple uniforms and carrying basic laser pistols that probably could not punch through. Studied the building layout on a tablet. The walls were thin metal sheets over a concrete frame. There were only 2 entrances, and both of them had simple electronic locks that looked like they came from a toy store. The windows were just regular glass with no armor or energy shielding. Tasing was almost laughing as he looked at the structural analysis. His smallest explosive charges could bring down the entire building. The humans had not even bothered to reinforce the foundation or had blast-resistant materials anywhere. He could probably destroy the place with firecrackers. Deho felt his unease growing stronger as he watched the facility. Everything was exactly as the intelligence reports had described, but something still felt wrong. The mission was too easy and the humans seemed too careless for people who were developing dangerous weapons, but he decided to follow standard procedure anyway. The team would split into 2 groups and observe the facility for 1 hour. They would identify guard patrol patterns and find the best attack routes, then they would move in and finish the job quickly. And Nari took position at the main entrance while Sura and Taesing covered the back of the building. Jimin climbed to a hill about 3 miles away where he could see all the exits clearly. The plan was simple and they had used it hundreds of times before. The first hour of observation showed them exactly what they expected to see. The security guards walked predictable routes around the building. They stopped at the same places and checked the same doors every 15 minutes. The scientists inside seemed to be working normally at their computers and lab equipment, but something strange happened during the second hour of watching. The people inside the facility started moving differently. The scientists were not just sitting at their desks anymore, they were walking around and carrying equipment to different rooms. The security guards changed their patrol routes and started checking areas they had ignored before. Nari noticed it first through her electronic surveillance. The humans were moving like they had a purpose that went beyond normal research work. They were positioning themselves around the building in ways that looked almost military. The scientists were handling their equipment like it was weapons instead of research tools. Through her binoculars, Sora saw something that made her blood run cold. One of the human scientists was looking directly at her hiding spot. The man was standing at a window holding what looked like a tablet computer, and he was pointing it exactly where she was concealed. The scientist was an older human male with gray hair and a calm expression. He wore a simple white lab coat like all the others, but there was something different about the way he moved. He looked like a soldier pretending to be a scientist instead of a scientist pretending to be harmless. Song reported similar observations. From his position, the humans in the back of the building were moving equipment that looked heavier and more dangerous than anything in the intelligence files. Some of the devices were giving off energy readings that his sensors could not identify. The most disturbing discovery came from Jimin on his distant hill. The sniper had been watching the facility through his scope when he decided to take a practice shot at one of the security guards. It should have been impossible to miss, and impossible. 2 server Jiminins aimed carefully at a guard who was standing perfectly still in the open courtyard. The distance was less than half his maximum range, and there was no wind to affect the shot. He squeezed the trigger and watched his energy bolt streak toward the target. The guard stepped aside 1 second before the shot arrived. The energy blast hit empty concrete where the human had been standing a moment earlier. The guard looked up at the hill where Jimin was hidden and smiled like he was greeting an old friend. Jimin felt ice in his veins. No one had ever detected his position before firing. No one had ever survived his opening shot, and no one had ever looked directly at him from 3 miles away and smiled like they knew exactly where he was. The sniper tried to relocate to a different position, but every time he moved, the humans in the facility seemed to track his movement. They were using methods he did not understand to follow his every step. Nari attempted to hack into the facility computer system, expecting to find the simple networks described in the intelligence reports. Instead, she found something impossible. The humans had detailed files about the Shadow Blade unit, including their names, their species, their previous missions, and their individual fighting styles. The computer files contained psychological profiles of each team member that were more detailed than their own. Military records. The humans knew about Jimin's fear of close combat and Sora's tendency to attack from the left side. They had information about Taesun's favorite explosives and Nari preferred hacking techniques, but the most shocking discovery was a series of video files showing their previous missions. The humans had somehow obtained recordings of the Shadow Blade unit in action against targets across the galaxy. They had studied every technique, every strategy, and every weakness in the main laboratory. Dr. Cho Minho activated a communication device that broadcast on all frequencies. His voice was calm and friendly as he spoke in perfect galactic standard language. He welcomed each member of the Shadow Blade unit by name and thanked them for coming to visit. The human scientists knew exactly where each assassin was hidden. He described their positions, their equipment, and their current emotional states with disturbing accuracy. Dr. Cho invited them to surrender peacefully or to continue with their mission if they preferred to see what human ingenuity could to accomplish when properly motivated. Sara tried to use her stealth suit to get closer to the building, but discovered that the humans could track her perfectly. Even when she was completely invisible to normal sensors, they had developed detection methods that made her advanced alien technology useless. Mr. Song placed his explosive charges on what appeared to be weak points in the building structure, only to find that the humans had somehow reinforced those exact locations with materials that made his bombs ineffective. His most powerful explosives barely scratched the walls. The demolitions expert realized that his charges were not just failing to work properly, they were actually sending signals back to the facility. The humans, who had turned his own weapons into tracking devices and could monitor his every movement, Nari found herself locked out of her own equipment as the human computer systems began hacking back into her tools. The facility artificial intelligence was not just defending against her attacks, it was learning from them and becoming better at predicting her next moves. Daeho watched his team encounter failure after failure and realized they were facing something completely unprecedented. These humans were not the primitive scientists described in the intelligence reports. They were something far more dangerous. The research facility was not just a laboratory, it was a trap, and the humans had been waiting for exactly this kind of attack. They knew who was coming, they knew how the attack would happen, and they had prepared countermeasures for every possible strategy. For the first time in 15 years of professional killing, Commander Kong Dae-ho gave an order he never thought he would have to give. He told his team to retreat immediately, but as the Shadow Blade unit tried to withdraw, they discovered that the humans were not content to simply defend their facility. They were following the assassins, and the real hunt was just beginning. The Shadow Blade unit ran through the grasslands around the human facility, trying to reach their ship, but something was very wrong. The humans were not just defending anymore, they were hunting. The research team had left their building and were tracking the assassins across the planet. Dae-ho could not understand how the humans were following them so easily. His team was using every stealth technique they knew, but the humans seemed to predict their every move. It was like the aliens were being hunted by people who could read their minds. Cho Minho and his research team had revealed their true nature. They were not just scientists working on energy weapons. They were former soldiers and special operations veterans who had volunteered for this assignment because they knew assassins would eventually come. The human facility had been designed as a trap from the very beginning. Every wall could become a weapon, every corridor was built to channel attackers into kill zones, every room had multiple escape routes that only the humans knew about. The research equipment were actually prototype weapons designed to fight alien technologyman found himself in a nightmare that no sniper should ever face. Every time he set up in a new position, the humans somehow knew exactly where he was. Dr. Park Soo-jin turned out to be a former army sniper who began playing a deadly game that Jimin was losing badly. The human sniper left messages for Jimin at positions she predicted he would use. The notes were not threats but technical discussions about wind compensation and trajectory calculations. She was treating their deadly contest like a professional consultation between colleagues. Soo-jin would arrive at a location hours before Jimin got there and leave detailed analysis of why that position was tactically sound but ultimately predictable. She pointed out better angles he could have used and explained how she would have set up the shot differently. The psychological effect on Jimin was devastating. He had never been hunted by someone who wanted to give him shooting lessons while trying to kill him. The human sniper was not just better at the game, she was trying to make him better. Tusara discovered that her hand-to-hand combat skills meant nothing against human adaptability. Lee Gangmin was a former martial arts instructor who fought with a style that seemed to learn from every exchange. Every technique Sora used once became useless the second time she tried it. Gangmin would counter her moves and then show her 3 different ways she could have done it better. He fought like he was teaching a class while simultaneously trying to kill his student. The human fighter left training equipment for Sora along with detailed notes about flaws in her combat form. He suggested improvements to her footwork and provided instructional videos showing more effective ways to use her own weapon. Sora found herself actually getting better at fighting because of the human lessons, but this made the situation even more terrifying. She was being educated by someone who was clearly superior in every way that mattered. As Sung faced his worst fear as a demolitions expert, his own weapons were being used against him. The humans had not just disabled his explosives, they had reprogrammed them. Every charge he placed was now under human control. The research team had somehow hacked his detonators and could set off his bombs whenever they wanted. Tae-sung was being hunted by his own explosives and the humans were using them to herd him toward locations of their choosing. But the humans did not just steal his weapons, they improved them. Dr. Kim Hae-jin left upgraded versions of his explosives, with detailed technical notes explaining how the designs could be made more efficient. The demolitions expert was being out-engineered by people who had learned about alien technology just weeks ago. Each improved bomb came with blueprints showing better ways to shape charges and suggestions for more effective applications. Tae-sung realized he was learning more about his own profession from the humans than he had learned in years of training. Neri discovered that human computer systems were protected by an artificial intelligence that thought like a human rather than a machine. The AI anticipated her every move and laid traps in the code itself. Facility computer system began hacking back into her own equipment and soon found herself locked out of her own tools by the very people she was trying to eliminate. The infiltration specialist was being out-hacked by primitives who had just discovered galactic technology, but the humans were not content to simply defeat her attempts. They wanted to teach her better methods. Dr. Yoon Seok-ko left programming tutorials that showed more elegant ways to break through security systems. The lessons were actually making Nari a better hacker. The most terrifying discovery was how the humans worked together as a team. They did not rely on advanced technology or superior numbers. Instead, they used something far more dangerous: constant communication. The humans talked to each other all the time, sharing information and adapting their strategies in real time. When one human was in trouble, the others did not just provide backup, they fundamentally changed their approach to help their team. Matitaho watched his team being systematically dismantled by opponents who treated the entire engagement like a learning experience. The humans were not just fighting for their lives, they were enjoying themselves. The research team approached the battle like a puzzle to be solved, rather than a life or death struggle. They were curious about alien fighting techniques, fascinated by different weapons, and absolutely determined to understand how galactic warfare actually worked. Archo Minho sent regular updates to his team, analyzing the assassins' techniques and suggesting counter-strategies. The human leader was treating the engagement like a military training exercise where both sides were supposed to learn from each other, but the humans had one advantage that made them impossibly dangerous: they got better with every exchange. Every mistake taught them something new. Every failed attack showed them a better way to defend. Every small victory revealed new possibilities. Jimin realized that Sujin was not just a better sniper, she was becoming a better sniper. During their fight, the human woman learned from every shot he took and incorporated his techniques into her own style. Sora discovered that Gangmin was adapting her fighting moves and using them against her with improvements. The human fighter was not just defeating her, he was evolving her own techniques and making them more effective. Song found that his explosives were being upgraded in real time. As the humans learned how they worked, each bomb he placed taught them more about demolition, and they used that knowledge to make better weapons. Nai watched in horror as the human AI learned her hacking methods and began using them more effectively than she could. The computer system was not just defending against her attacks, it was incorporating her techniques and improving them. Commander Daeho finally understood what made humans so dangerous. They did not just fight, they learned. They did not just defend, they improved. They did not just survive, they evolved. For the first time in his career, Daeho realized that his team was not just losing a battle, they were being educated. The humans were turning every exchange into a lesson, and they were better students than any species he had ever encountered. The Shadowblade unit had fought Void Lords who were stronger, Cyberhive Queens who were smarter, and entire armies that were better equipped, but they had never faced opponents who got better during the fight. As his team continued to retreat toward their ship, Daeho made a decision that would define the rest of his career. He opened a communication channel to Dr. Cho Minho and asked a question that no elite assassin should ever have to ask. He wanted to know if the humans were interested in hiring them. Commander Kong Daeho sat in the debriefing room staring at the blank report form on his computer screen. How do you tell your superiors that you failed to kill 23 human scientists because they turned out to be the most dangerous opponents you had ever faced? The Galactic Enforcement Division headquarters was buzzing with activity as usual. Other assassination teams were coming and going from successful missions. The walls were covered with awards and commendations that the Shadowblade unit had earned over the years. His team sat around the conference table, each dealing with their encounter with humanity in different ways. Jimin had requested extended leave to reconsider his career options. The sniper who had never missed a target was questioning everything he thought he knew about his profession. Sora was watching human martial arts videos on her tablet. Dr. Lee Gangmin had provided her with an entire library of fighting techniques that she had never seen before. The close combat specialist was learning new ways to kill people from the man who had defeated Song had completely rebuilt all of his equipment using human design improvements. His explosives were now twice as effective and half as dangerous. To handle the demolitions expert was using lessons learned from people he had tried to blow up. Nori had applied for a transfer to the Intelligence Analysis Division. She wanted to understand how humans thought and why they were so different from every other species in the galaxy. The infiltration specialist had become fascinated by the minds she could not hack. General Vex entered the debriefing room with his usual intimidating presence. The four-eyed alien looked at the failed mission report and demanded an explanation. His green skin seemed to darken when he was angry, and right now he looked very dark. Daeho began his report with the basic facts. Mission failed due to inadequate intelligence. Targets were significantly more capable than anticipated. Recommend immediate reassessment of human threat level. But those simple words did not capture what had really happened. The real story was that humans were unlike any species the galaxy had encountered. They did not just fight back against attacks, they studied their enemies and found ways to make everyone involved better at their jobs. They treated warfare like a collaborative research project. General Vex interrupted the report to ask how 23 primitive scientists you had defeated the galaxy's most elite assassination unit. His voice carried disbelief and anger that made the walls vibrate. Daeho tried to explain, but the words sounded impossible even to him. The humans had known the Shadowblade unit was coming. Before they arrived, they had prepared countermeasures for techniques that were supposed to be secret. They had turned the facility into a trap designed specifically to capture and study alien military methods. But the most dangerous thing about humans was not their preparation or their intelligence. It was their ability to learn and improve during combat. Every exchange made them better. Every technique they observed became part of their own arsenal. Jimin tried to explain how Dr. Su had become a better sniper by fighting him. The human woman had learned alien shooting techniques in real time and incorporated them into her own style. She had turned their duel into a masterclass in marksmanship. Sora described how Lee Gang that adapted her fighting moves and used them against her with improvements. The human martial artist had not just defeated her, he had evolved her own techniques and made them more effective. While they fought, Tizong explained how the humans had reprogrammed his explosives and then shown him better ways to build them. The research team had out-engineered alien technology using methods they had invented during the battle. Nuri reported that human computer systems had learned her hacking techniques and used them more effectively than she could. The artificial intelligence had not just defended against her attacks, it had incorporated her methods and improved them. General Vex listened to these reports with growing confusion. How could a primitive species defeat advanced alien technology? The humans had barely discovered space travel, yet they were somehow superior to soldiers with decades of experience. Idaho explained that humans had one advantage that no other species possessed. They never stopped getting better. Every challenge made them stronger. Every defeat taught them something new. Every enemy became a teacher, whether they wanted to or not. The Shadowblade unit had fought opponents who were stronger, faster, smarter, and better equipped, but they had never faced enemies who improved during the fight. Humans turned every battle into a learning experience that made them more dangerous. General Vex demanded to know why the team had not completed their mission despite these difficulties. He wanted to know why elite assassins had retreated from scientists who were supposedly inferior in every way. Deho took a deep breath and delivered the part of his report that would change galactic policy toward humans. The research team had not just defeated the Shadowblade unit, they had recruited them. The humans wanted to hire the assassins as military consultants. The job offer was still open and included benefits that no other employer had ever provided. The humans offered triple pay, advanced training programs, and the opportunity to keep getting better at their profession. The enemy wanted to help them become more effective. Kalerjaman spoke up to support his commander report. He explained that Dr. Su had taught him more about sniping in one day than he had learned in years of training. The human expert had shared knowledge that made him a better soldier. Sora added that Gangman fighting techniques had improved her combat abilities in ways she never thought possible. The human martial artist had shown her weaknesses in her own style and provided solutions to fix them. Tasing confirmed that human engineering had made his explosives more effective and safer to use. The research team had improved alien technology using principles that did not exist in galactic database. Nuri reported that human computer programming had advanced her hacking skills beyond anything she thought possible. The artificial intelligence had taught her methods that made her one of the best infiltration specialists in the galaxy. General Vex stared at the team in disbelief. Elite assassins were praising the people they had failed to kill. The galaxy most feared soldiers were asking permission to work for their targets. Deho delivered his final recommendation. The Galactic Council should not view humans as a threat to be eliminated. Instead, they should be approached as potential partners. Humans had demonstrated abilities that could benefit every species in the galaxy. The report concluded with a warning that every military leader needed to understand. Humans were not dangerous because they were strong or smart or well-equipped. They were dangerous because they never stopped learning and improving. Any species that tried to eliminate humanity would find themselves facing opponents who learned from every mistake, adapted to every strategy, and turned every defeat into a lesson for future victory. 3 weeks after submitting his report, Deho received a response from Dr. Cho Minho. The human research team had been promoted to head Earth New Galactic Relations Division. Their first initiative was the cultural exchange program they had mentioned. The message included updated technical specifications for weapons that combined human creativity with alien technology. The designs were even better than the previous versions. The humans had continued improving their work using data from the failed assassination attempt. There were also invitations to visit Earth and participate in joint training exercises. The humans wanted to share their knowledge with alien military experts while learning from their techniques. The enemy was offering to make everyone better at warfare. Deho looked at his team and made a decision that would define the rest of his career. He submitted his resignation from the Galactic Enforcement Division and accepted humanity offered to become military consultants. 6 months later, when a group of alien assassins was sent to deal with a human problem, they found themselves facing opponents who had been trained by the Shadowblade unit. The humans had learned everything the galaxy best killers could teach them and improved upon it. The new assassination team discovered that humans had incorporated alien techniques into their own fighting styles. The research facility was now defended by soldiers who combined human adaptability with the best methods from dozens of different species. The galaxy military leaders finally understood why elite killers were running scared. It was not because humans were stronger or smarter or better equipped. It was because humans turned every enemy into a teacher, every defeat into a lesson, and every threat into an opportunity to become more dangerous. They were just humans, but that was exactly what made them the most terrifying opponents in the galaxy.